It's time for some common knowledge where I look at Magic the Gathering commons and tell you if they are good in the Pauper format or not. Let's start with our first card. It is Spiketail Hatchling. That's a classic card right there. Originally from Prophecy. It's been upshifted. Prophecy common. And then it got upshifted. Is this card good? Prophecy's a bad set. So, let's take a look. Spiketail Hatchling is 1 and a blue for a 1/1 flying drake. You can sacrifice this creature and counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. That's actually not bad. That's actually not really that bad at all. It's had the same art the whole time, although this 10th edition, well, that's the foil, I guess. That's why it's maybe different coloring. I like Spiketail Hatchling. I don't think it's necessarily a good card in Pauper, but it's a fun card. I think it's a good cube card. Like this is a card you want to have in your cube, and I don't know, it's all right. Like a 1/1 flyer for 2 mana in blue, no doubt, but or no less rather. That'll do enough damage every once in a while, and then your your opponent will never want to fully tap out for anything, knowing that you can force spike at any time. Like sure, you have to lose the creature, but it's just the way this can warp a table by just the threat of its activation. And your opponent's gonna play differently, play safer. And that can help you if you want to be more aggressive. It's not a bad little creature. Now the 1/1 does make it a little tough. It's pretty easy to burn this guy away. And there's plenty of things that do single points of damage to lots of creatures. You know, somebody could pretty easily cast into the fire and pay the 1 when necessary to stop the sacrifice effect from being effective. But this is good. It's just a good, solid, clean, cool Magic card. In fact, I think I'm going to buy myself a couple copies of Spiketail Hatchling because I do not think I have any copies. Spiketail Hatchling. Definitely the Prophecy version. Because, one, I like that old border, or that old frame, but also, and it's got the only one with the common symbol. Also, I just like Prophecy symbol. I like those crystals. But I do like the big X in 10th edition as well, but that's a common. Anyway, for a score, let's give this thing like a 4.6. I don't think it quite makes it into your Pauper decks, but it's a solid card and probably worth consideration, more than it's gotten. Sky Shaper is 2 mana for an artifact. You can sacrifice this artifact, and creatures you control gain flying until end of turn. Interesting. Downshifted, originally from Exodus, and then downshifted in a Tempest Remastered online set. So it is available in Pauper, but you know it's going to be my bugaboo of only having the uncommon mana symbol in paper. I don't love that. I don't love when that happens. But 2 mana for an artifact that sits on the table and then gives you a bunch of evasion for 1 turn. Probably not the worst, but also not the best. We have so many good 2 mana artifacts that just do more things. You know, Lembas, Eager Wellspring, Prophetic Prism. Like there's just a ton of artifacts that you'd play way over this. You could argue, oh, it's another artifact on the table for Affinity, but Affinity doesn't care. Affinity has so many artifacts that it can play, and it doesn't really need the evasion because it's just putting down 4/4 Mirror Enforcers super early and then swinging in for big damage. It's not really important that those guys have evasion. They can just break right on through. So I ultimately think this is a little bit disappointing. And you won't play it, and you won't really think about it ever again. But it gets like a 2.1, I guess. Next is Beetle Legacy Criminal from Marvel's Spider-Man. The Through the Omen Pass version is a Ralahedron Scaler. Anyway, Beetle is 3 and a blue for a 3/3 legendary creature human rogue villain. It's got flying. And for 1 and a blue, you can exile this card from your graveyard and put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains flying until end of turn, and you can activate only as a sorcery. So a little bit like a bad Carsey Revenant, you know? If you mill this thing into your graveyard, it still has a little bit of value, giving something a +1/+1 counter and flying for a turn for 2 mana. Probably not the worst thing you could ever do. And then this is just if it's on the field, it's like a French vanilla 3/3 flyer for 4 mana. In blue, that's not terrible. The other thing, I know we've mentioned it before with some Spider-Man cards, but these are really some of the only legends at the common rarity. So Cast Down does not work against this creature. That's interesting. Now I would say there are other Spider-Man cards that are probably a little bit more effective than this. The actual Spider-Man one in white is probably the most played of these legends. Venom, I think, could be played. I haven't seen anybody play him, but every time I look at Venom, I go, I don't know, there's something kind of there. And this one is, I mean, it's a human and it's a rogue, so it is an outlaw. Villain is not an outlaw type, which is funny, but rogue is, so it still counts as an outlaw if you're playing outlaws. I ultimately think this is just kind of normal. Despite being a weird Spider-Man card with a slightly weird activated ability in the graveyard, those things are a little bit different. Being a legend at common rarity is a little bit different, but it is mostly just a normal Magic card, and I think you could give it I guess it's better than that artifact we just saw. I'll give this a 2.3. It's probably even better than that. It's like a 2.5, but it's not. It's still not great. Fear of Lost Teeth is a single black mana for a 1/1 enchantment creature that is a nightmare. When this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target, and you gain 1 life. I've seen black sacrifice decks play around with this guy. I think there are probably slightly better black sack targets than this guy, but if you need another 1-drop that does something when it dies, and maybe it's something you're able to recur back multiple times, and it's a 2 mana swing or a 2 life swing every time it dies. They damage to them, life to you. That's a 2 swing. It's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. I'll go ahead and give this. I'll give this like a 4.2. Totally playable card. Flesh Grafter is 2 and a black for a 2/2 human warrior. You can discard an artifact card, and this creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, originally from 5th Dawn and only from 5th Dawn. Interesting. That set, certainly more artifact-based than most, so you will have more artifact cards in your hand. But it is, at least in that set you would have. Like in Limited, you might have had more. In Pauper, this costing 3 mana for a grizzly bear that can get bigger is not amazing at all. And then discarding an artifact card, while you can build your deck to have a lot more artifacts in it, black's actually a really good deck for a big artifact build. Discarding artifacts is interesting. I don't know how many artifacts actually have madness on them if you wanted to try something like that. Let's take a quick look and just say artifact and madness. Oop, got to spell madness right. There's none. 0. 0 cards with madness that are artifacts. So it's that would be the tech, right? If they do eventually make artifacts that have madness, I don't know when the hell they'd do that. But if and when they did that, this might be a useful card in that situation. But you'd need a lot of artifacts that did that, and you'd need a lot of artifacts that would be effective when they did that. And this doesn't really have that. I suppose there are probably artifacts that do stuff in your graveyard, that have triggers in your graveyard, or something that you're able to reanimate. Maybe there's potential, But for the most part, this is an overcosted grizzly bear that doesn't really have the utility that you would hope it would. And so I will give this, I'll give this a 1. Right now it's a 1. I think even if you did get a bunch of artifacts that had madness costs in them, or if you did have artifacts that did something when they got discarded, or you had artifacts that did something in the graveyard, this is still not the enabler you'd really want to do it with, because it costs too much. The +2/+2 is interesting, though. I mean, it is kind of like an ATOG at that point. An ATOG banned out of the format. ATOG is too good. But that is sacrificing artifacts that are already on the table, which is a whole lot easier. So I'll stand by my 1. I think this is a pretty bad card. Ghoul Draws Vampire is a single black mana for a 1/1 vampire rogue. As long as an opponent has 10 or less life, this creature gets +2/+1 and has Intimidate. Intimidate is kind of like Fear. On this card, it is Fear. It can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or creatures that share a color with it. Fear says artifact creatures are black creatures, so this is functionally the same here, but that's Intimidate's the one they went with, because Fear got phased out, and now they've kind of phased out Intimidate as well. So I do like 1-drops that, while not modal exactly, are cards that have value in the later stages of the game. So if you did play this on like turn 8, turn 8 or something, and you're generally not just getting a 1/1 for 1, which would feel a little bad, feel a little ineffective. You're getting a 3/2 with Intimidate for a single black mana. That's a pretty good deal. And you don't feel nearly as bad playing that on turn 8. It's actually a pretty effective play. The problem is that is this impactful enough as a 1/1 for 1 in the early game? And is this as impactful in the late game as the other plays that you could make? What's the opportunity cost here? It's not just, is this card okay? It is. It's an okay card. But is this card the best option for you when you only get to play 75 cards? Is this card the best option for you at either one of those times? And you generally will want to play the best cards you can at any one time, or have like a modal card which is a little bit weaker but playable all the time. And while this is playable all the time, it's not really good enough at any time. And that ultimately is the card's downfall. Probably a really cool limited card. Again, another cool cube card, I suppose. That could be fun. But in terms of our purposes here, when we're looking at Pauper, I'd give this thing I'll give it a 3. Because there's still some solid use to it, but it's just, yeah, you could do better. Ghostly Wings is 1 and a blue for an aura. It's an enchantment, obviously. All auras are enchantments. Not all enchantments are auras, though. It enchants a creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying. And you can discard a card to return enchanted creature to its owner's hand. Interesting. Originally from Torment, which I think it has... Have we done this one before? I think we have done this one before, because I remember liking this art, but I also kind of like this art, too. It's okay. I do like that it has a form of protection on the creature. Discarding a card is not amazing for that, but I'll end up kind of skipping this one. I'll still give it a score. Maybe you can go back and check to see if I gave it a better score last time. But I'd give this like a 2.8, I suppose. But let's move on and not count it. Atom Wheel Acrobats is an uncard that is legal in Pauper, so we'll do it anyway. It's 3 and a green for a 3/2 elf performer. Whenever you roll a 1 or a 2, put that many +1/+1 counters on this creature. And then for 2 and a green, roll a 6-sided die. Interesting. I would need to look. Actually, I guess we can. We've got time. Let's go roll a die, not dice. Roll a die. And let's say legal in Pauper. Let's see what we get. We get 21 cards that say roll a die. But some of these are not gonna, like, these are not exactly the same things. This one does not have roll a die in it. Why did that come up? Text has roll a and die in it. So where is roll? Oh, controller a and then put into a graveyard has been updated to die. So that is Jesus, that is unhelpful. So you can roll a die, another uncard. That doesn't work. That one does roll a die. There's not a ton of cards here in Pauper that roll a die. Roll the planar die, that would not work. Right? That wouldn't work. No, because the planar die doesn't have ones and twos on it. Yeah, there's not a ton of rolling that happens. Certainly nothing. I think this might actually be the only card. Yeah, I think this is the only card that can continually roll dice, or roll dice each turn, like repeatable dice rolling in Pauper. Weird. Interesting. You learn something new every day. Not great. It wouldn't be great even if you had other dice enablers, but this really being the only enabler for itself, and still it only works 33% of the time, right? And even then, half the time it gets 1+1+1 counter, and the other half the time it gets 2+1+1 counters. I think those are. It's not great. Is a 5/4 for 4 all that great? No, not really. And you wouldn't get a 5/4 for 4. You'd get a 5/4 for maybe 7, but maybe even worse than that. This is bad. Mana sinks are cool, but this is not the mana sink you'd want. I guess if you had infinite mana, not strictly deterministic, but I guess probabilistically, this thing is infinite, and then you can swing in. But it's still a vanilla creature at that point, and you have to get infinite mana. This is a funny way to use infinite mana, but probably not the best. So let's give it a 1.3, I guess, for the infinite potential. And then we'll just move on. Iron Shell Beetle is 1 and a green for a 1/1 insect. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So that's interesting. It could be a grizzly bear. You could put the +1/+1 counter on it, and then it's just a 2-mana 2/2. All right. Or you give it to something else. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Ooh, look at that judgment art. Look at that judgment art. That's cool. This other art is pretty good too. I don't mind that, but it's okay. At the end of the day, it's a grizzly bear with slightly different utility. Not even necessarily better utility, but slightly different. 1.7. Shadow Cloak Vampire is 4 and a black for a 4/3 vampire. You can pay 2 life, and this creature gains flying until end of turn. Pretty bad. 5 mana for a 4/3 is not amazing. Paying 2 life for an ability is. I mean, I guess it can be useful. There's some cards in Pauper that care about life totals. I think you'll find a lot of those cards are probably higher rarities when it comes to. What is it, like wound reflection? Am I thinking of something else? Wound reflection. Beginning of each end step, opponent loses life. No. Okay, that's different. That's a different thing. But there's some stuff where you can exchange life totals, or bring everybody down to the lowest life total. So there are ways of making a card like this work. There are other cards that are cheaper than this. Mischievous Poltergeist is a much cheaper card that can do this effect way better. And there's plenty of other things that pay life for stuff. Wall of Blood can do that as well. So yeah, I don't think this is very good. And 2 life to just give the creature flying is pretty bad. If I'm paying 5 mana, I kind of just want a 4/3 flyer. I don't give it a downside. It's just a 4/3 flyer at that point. Magic 2015 going, maybe that's too good to have a 4/3 flyer for 5 mana. And I would say, nope, I don't even think that's good enough, honestly. This is 1.1. It's real bad. Oh, yes. Yes. Final card of the day, and it is a doozy, baby. It's Urborg Panther, one of my favorites. Not necessarily good in Pauper, but it's one of my favorites anyway. Urborg Panther is 2 and a black for a 2/2 Night Stalker cat. For a single black mana, you can sacrifice this creature and destroy target creature blocking it. That's okay. But if you sacrifice a creature named Feral Shadow, which is this one, 2/1 flyer, and if you sacrifice a creature named Feral Shadow, a creature named Breath Stealer, which is this one, which gives for a single black mana, it gets +1/-1 until end of turn. So you really can kind of only use that once unless you pump it up. And you sacrifice this creature, Urborg Panther, that we're seeing here. You get to search your library for a card named Spirit of the Night, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. Spirit of the Night's a rare, so this chain does not work in Pauper. Unfortunately, you can play all the minions, but you can't get can't get the big guy that it's attached to. Spirit of the Night, what a classic Magic card right here. 9 mana, 6/5 legendary demon spirit with flying, trample, haste, protection from black, first strike as long as it's attacking. What a beast! What an absolute beast this guy is. Like just the cream of the crop when it comes to French vanilla black legendary guys. Awesome. Not played in any format anymore. There's just better cards in every format, literally. But you could still play Urborg Panther. I think Urborg Panther. Actually, Feral Shadow is probably the best of these 3 minions. Just being a flyer, not a particularly good flyer. 3 mana for a 2/1 is not awesome. And also consider that this costs 3 mana, this costs 3 mana, and this costs 3 mana. So you still are paying the 9 mana that the Spirit of the Night costs just in these installments, and then also paying a 10th to, or no, never mind. Sorry, this is free. So you could pay 9 mana in those installments and get Spirit of the Night then. You shouldn't. You can't in Pauper, but you shouldn't. I love this art though. Cliff, you did so good there. Actually, I want to know. I'll save. I was going to save that for later, but I want to see what else Cliff has done. Oh, Cliff did the whole cycle. That's cool. Or not cycle. The whole unit there. Not a ton of cards that Cliff's done. Interesting, but I like the style. I like the style quite a bit, and this is just one of my favorite arts in all of Magic. I got this card and went, oh, this thing's cool, and then you read the text and you go, whoa, I need to know what Feral Shadow is. I need to know what Breath Stealer is, and then you go out and you find those cards and you're like, this is awesome. And then you get Spirit of the Night and you go, whoa, that's awesome. Then you try playing these cards in a deck and your opponent just kills one of them, and you go, oh, well, now I can't do the thing. And do you put 4 of these guys? Like, do you put 12 copies of your Urborg Panther, Breath Stealer, and Feral Shadow in there so you're able to get to these? These are bad cards. These are bad cards even if they were reduced by 1. Anyway, that's kind of enough talking about that. Urborg Panther's not the worst card on its own. A 2/2 that can sacrifice itself to destroy a creature that's blocking it. I guess that means it mostly just swings in for 2 damage each turn, and your opponent lets it go, or until the point that they go, oh well, I got to chump with something I kind of don't care about, and then you have to make that choice. But it's bad. It's bad. I'll admit it's bad. But man, what a nostalgia trip this card is for me. Also, I think so. This only was in Mirage. Breath Stealer's only in Mirage, but Feral Shadow did get a few different printings, which is a little weird, right? I remember this Portal version. I think I actually have this 6th edition one as well. It's odd that Feral Shadow. I mean, it is just a 2/1 flyer for 3. I suppose it's pretty easy to say, it's just a normal card. Urborg Panther, you can't reprint I guess they did a list printing, but you can't really reprint Urborg Panther unless you have the other 3 cards that work with it, right? Because it mentions all those cards. Anyway, card's not very good for Pauper. In my heart, this is a 10. But if I'm being real, which I should be real here, this is 1.5. God, that hurts me to say. Hurts me to say. You know what? Let's go ahead and do a bonus card anyway. Court Street Denizen is 2 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier. Whenever another white creature you control enters, tap target creature an opponent controls. Normal, not amazing. Another 3 mana 2/2 like the Urborg Panther, with a little bit better utility, but still not really that good. I gave Urborg Panther what, a 1.3. I can't even remember that. That was the last card. It was pretty bad. I'll give this a 1.4 and say it's almost equally bad. Slightly better, but almost equally bad. Anyway, that's enough for this time. We'll catch you next time on Common Knowledge. See you later.